oh my God, thank God you're there for me, and thank God I'm enough for you. And it's so scary when we lose that, but we can find our way back to this. Just a real quick refresh, right? Three main pillars of our work. And you think about what I'm saying is stuff you could say to a client, right? You don't have to. You have your own thing. Great, do your own thing. Do it your own way. But the first pillar is attachment theory. The second pillar is systems theory. And the third pillar is experiential psychotherapy. Right. And we combine the three of them together. We smush those three things up into one philosophy and approach to helping individuals and couples, but primarily couples, right? And attachment theory is really, really simple, right? It's really simple, right? It's the best theory we have of what love is from a biological perspective. And it's basically from the moment you're born to the moment you die, you need to be bonded with another human being. Like, of course, you could live unbonded with another human being, but your organism feels a level of threat, right? And the easiest way to understand this, just think about it. When a baby is born, they don't actually need food and shelter or a crossbow or a gun or, right, like to protect themselves. They're absolutely useless. They can't feed themselves. They can't run away. They can't fight. They couldn't put a blanket over them if there was a blanket left beside them, right? Fucking useless. My kids, 7 and 10, let's be honest, they're still pretty fucking useless, right? Couldn't send them off to work. They get fired on day one, right? Still pretty useless, right? So, how do we compensate? How do we survive in the world given we're born useless? We just have this mechanism built in, which is attachment, right? That the mom or, whoever's going to be there, we see like other species, a lion sees a baby monkey and they go, little baby monkey. Like they're starving and they would eat an adult monkey, but they actually go up to a little baby monkey, go, oh, your little baby monkey, nom, 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 kiss, kiss, kiss. Mm. Right? Like we have this built-in thing that we want to be loving and nurturing to little babies, and especially our own little babies, right? Or in our communities, little babies, right? So basically, the little baby needs another human being at first. Are you there for me? And am I good enough for you? And that's basically it, right? Are you there for me? And am I good enough for you, right? Because if there isn't another human being on the other side of your birth, when you're born, right, you just like, out you come. Woohoo! You just fucking launch out. That's what it's like, right? I don't know, right? It is like a little helmet. Hey, I'm coming out, right? You get out. I don't know, Alyssa, something like that, right? But
Thank God, not quite like
well,
that.
it's not quite like that. When you come out, right? Like you need to have that other person be there or you're going to die. You will literally die. And how do we make sure that there's another person there? They're attached to you, you're attached to them. And you fucking will freak out if they're not there. You're gonna cry, you're gonna be upset, and you're gonna freak out if it looks like they're disappointed in you, right? They're there, they're not gonna let it like a tiger eat me. But I also need to know that I'm not a disappointment to them because they could reject me at any moment in the future if I'm a disappointment to them. And I'll still end up being eaten. So I don't want to be abandoned by them not being here at all, but I also don't want to be rejected because I'm a disappointment. And so your entire life, you grow up, you don't know anything except your little family bubble, Mom is an anxious mom. She's distracted by Instagram. Fucking little matcha lattes all day. And Instagram the rest of the time. You don't know anything else. That's all you know. That is the water. And the two fish swimming along, third fish swims by and goes, what's the water like today? And the two fish say to each other, what the fuck's he talking about? What's water? Right? You have no fucking idea. You're born in your family, and like let's say that's your mom, fucking little Mata, and like Instagram, right? You just adapt to, oh shit, my mom can't be here, and I'm gonna make an adaptation, right? I'm a whiny so and so. I stopped myself once. I'm a whiny so and so, or I'll tell you what, I'll just read books all day. Right. And all you then grow up and you go, I've just always been a whiny so and so. Or I just have always liked to read books in my room. But it's not that simple. You just made an adaptation to my mom was not actually capable of being there for me. Same is true if like, your mom, your dad, whatever, both of them together, you run the 100 meters and you come back with the silver medal and they're like, we don't understand why you didn't win after all that practice you did. Right? You don't know anything different. You don't know anything different. That is just what water is like. There is no other ocean. This is the water, the attachment water I swim in. I get told I'm not enough. And I become a defensive person, a shut down person, a collapsed person, whatever the fuck I do, like to survive, a withdrawn person, because contact with the world, it fucking sucks. I just get told it's not enough. So I'll just fucking learn jujitsu and beat the shit out of people. I don't know. But I make an adaptation to survive. And then these two fish that made their little adaptations. One is with their fucking tweaking mata Instagram mom, and the other grew up in a world where their mom and dad were like, "You're just not good enough. I don't know why I didn't get A pluses." And they meet each other in college and they fall in love. And now they create their own little goldfish bowl. And it turns out partner A starts to freak out when it looks like their partner's unavailable to them. It sure smells very similar to my mom that was drinking mates and on Instagram all day. It's not exactly the same the way they're unavailable, but it smells very similar to their like organism, and they fucking freak out and they're like doing their little bitching and nagging shit. Why aren't you fucking here? Why aren't you here? And guess what? It now smells very, very similar to partner B to I'm back in a world where I'm a fucking disappointment every minute of the day, and this is my fucking marriage? Fuck that. I am dissociating. And these two people now have recreated each of their own trauma and created this system where we're both hurting and we're both hurting each other, and we cannot see the wood from the trees. We cannot see the wood from the trees because we're so deeply embedded in our first person perspective. All I know is I'm hurting and that bloody person won't be here, and I'm hurting. That bloody person that was supposed to love me is constantly disappointed in me. That's what we're doing. We see everything through an attachment lens, and it's just this built-in mechanism that we need each other. And if we're not there for each other, we're going to freak out. There's two core sides of wounding in attachment, right? You could feel abandoned. And if you have a sensitivity to being abandoned, you're what's called anxiously attached. We in EFT call it the pursuer. Person that's got a bigger sensitivity to being abandoned is going to be what's called in like proper attachment language, like they're anxiously attached, the pursuer. And in the empathy process, we call that person the relentless lover. They're looking for connection relentlessly. They're just like, everything has to be about the we. I have to be your priority. They're just relentless in wanting connection. It's never enough. They need more, right? And then the other person, like, typically, if that's who they're in relationship with, they're going to feel like I'm never enough. I'm not acceptable, right? We call that person in EFT the withdrawer. And in proper attachment language, they're avoidantly attached. And in the empathy process, we call them the reluctant lover. They do want to be connected, but it never, when they look outside of their little portal, it's never quite right to be connected right now because it's not quite safe enough to be connected right now. They're kind of, what's your man's name in Popeye? I'll gladly play you Tuesday for a hamburger today. They are going to pay up and connect with you, but not today. They're going to pay you next Tuesday. They're going to connect with you later. I can't do it right now because it's too scary right now, but I do want it, right? 70, 80% of the time, those two people get together in a relationship, right? And so that brings us to that's the first pillar, attachment theory. Second pillar, systems theory. And so now we get to, two people that need to be emotionally bonded and have particular sensitivities that are you there for me? And they're looking out and checking, are you really there? Am I really enough for you? And some variation thereof inside of both of them. They now create a system with each other. Two entities, two parts create one larger, complete entity unto itself, a whole. And that whole can be best understood in an infinity loop. Partner one hurts inside. It looks like you're not here for me. Partner two reacts. I got to protest this in some way. Hey, why are you looking at your phone? I heard it's bad for you. Partner two goes, fuck yeah, man. You're making me feel unacceptable again. I hate this. This is the thing I've been trying not to feel all my life. So they go, hey, I'm going out to the pub, right? So I don't have to be nagged. And so partner one got confirmation. You're not here for me. Now they follow them to the pub. This is not good behavior. You're not supposed to do this. And so partner two feels even more, I'm unacceptable. I'm never going to be unacceptable. So they sprint to the pub. Okay, that's what happened between Teal and I last night. Right. She was the one sprinting to the pub, though. Just see, you guys made an assumption. Think about yourselves. Bad assumption you made. Okay, so the second thing is they like remember attachment theory, and then of course two people that need to be attached to create a system with each other, and you help them put the system together. And then the glue of all of that that makes it possible that big transformation can happen is the experiential psychotherapy part. And the experiential psychotherapy is kind of, what we talked about and Lily brought up in the last training, which we now have to make it a living, breathing experience, right? Like where you can help someone, the way everything I just explained, you're both hurting, you're both reactive, look at the system you're creating. It's really sad for both of you. But then we have to make that a living, breathing experience inside of both of them. And that's what experiential therapy does, right? And the number one tool we have in EFT to do that is we do enact. And an enactment is basically where we have someone be able to share their vulnerable feeling with the other person because of the way they hurt when they're not connected to each other. There's slight variations, right? But we have them actually feel the vulnerable feeling and share the vulnerable feeling. But so don't worry. But the most important thing right now is just the three principles, right? Like if someone asks you, what do you do? I use attachment. Oh my God, I almost did it. I almost put on a French accent again. I use attachment theory, systems theory, and experiential psychotherapy, and I mushed them together.
Pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah, right. And so yeah, you just want to know like in a broad brushstrokes what those three things are and why do we do it, right? Because being connected is your birthright. Life fucking sucks. Your house could burn down. Like you're gonna lose your job. You're eventually gonna get old. Your freaking hair is gonna grow out of your ears, your nose. You're not gonna be able to see properly anymore, right? You're gonna be peeing multiple. Okay, it's getting too personal. Multiple times in the night. It's just all gonna end really badly. And Mother Nature was kind enough to go, here's what I'll do. I'll leave you a blanket that you could wrap around you and one other so that it's not going to be completely shit from the moment you're born until you die, right? Attachment is the blanket. So what we're trying to do is like, hey, listen, life, like the couple comes to see us, like, this really sucks. Is there any way we could get you inside a blanket together that is your kind of your birthright? I just got born in this new world and it's really scary. But oh fuck, thank God mom's there. Right? We want that like the two people that feel that way about each other, like, oh my God, thank God you're there for me, and thank God I'm enough for you. And it's so scary when we lose that, but we can find our way back to this, right? Because that's as good as it gets. The rest of it is just carnage and suffering.
So,
Okay, sorry. I got lost in the carnage. So that's it. That's what we do. Anything about that little summary that you have questions about, or in particular?
Yeah, you said 70% of the case it's anxious and avoidant
Yeah.
together. I guess what's the rest of it?
Well, it's actually very simple, right? It's a little tool, it's a little hack to think of someone as anxious and someone as avoidant, right? It's just good to know what's their sensitivity, right? It's really helpful, right? So the other 30%, let's say, is going to be some combination of you have an anxious with an anxious.
Mm-hmm.
You don't care about me. Well, you don't care about me. Right? Like you're gonna have two people that are like, it's gonna be very fiery. You're not
Intense.
gonna, and then let's say the other whatever percent is left is going to be two avoidance, right? Like two people that either on the surface or really deep down inside, they're like, well, everything's okay. We don't need to talk about it. And the other person's like, that works for me. Right? It doesn't mean they're not hurting inside and not feeling disconnected, but they're just not like, they just don't talk about it.
But they're still coming to therapy because there is an issue.
Well, you're right. Like they're
Yeah.
going to be slower to get to therapy, but there's
Right.
still a disconnection vacuum. If you think like
Yeah.
connection this is what we long for, right? That we're actually connected, right? We're together. I'm here for you. You're enough for me. And the polarity between avoidant wants to be enough, anxious, I want you to like to feel you're here with me. And when that's not there, there's a disconnection. It hurts so much that they go, fuck, we got to do something about it. And they reach out to anxious, right? They're going to reach out really soon, right? Because they're scaring the shit out of each other. They're literally scaring the shit out of each other, right? I could kill you. Well, I actually already hired someone to kill you. We better sort this out, right? And then avoidant, eventually they'll go like weeds started growing up through my toes on the couch. And the other person is, I have moss growing from my armpits. We will slowly die if we let this connection where we don't do anything about it continue. But look, the main thing is any two people you meet that are important to each other, they're both hurting, being disconnected, and they both have ways of reacting and protesting hurting that is painful for the other person. We then overlay this nice little key, which is, most likely one of them feels abandoned and the other person feels rejected, right? Like that key is really helpful, but what's most helpful is you just meet them and you just work out what the four things are without even that key. Like, what is it you feel like when you're not connected, right? And you're not trying to make them a pursuer, withdrawer. You're like, oh, like it really just this is a brand new person. This is like you just have all this in the background so you understand what you're doing. But then you meet this person, just like this unique person, right? Where instead of labeling them a pursuer in your mind, you're just like, so you feel terrified when you don't know when your partner's coming home. Wow, terrified. What do you do? Oh, you call their boss. Well, that's that. Now it makes sense that one would do that, but wow, you call their boss, right? What is it like that they've called your boss when you work late, right? Is scared. It makes sense. You'd be fucking scared. Oh, sorry. And then what do you do, right? Well, I stay at work later, right? Like you just like oh, I get scared. I can't tolerate not knowing when you'd be home. Call the boss. You scared the living shit out of me. Now I'm definitely not coming home because you're fucking scaring me. Right. And look how we create this connection vacuum together. You could overlay then on top of that, this person that's calling the boss is obviously a pursuer, right? They're obviously the anxiously attached. I can fucking handle you're at work late. You said be home an hour ago. And this person is obviously the withdrawer, right? You're acting like you're too much. I am staying at work all night, right? And but together they create the connection vacuum. Oh yeah, Sarah.
Curious if disorganized attachment, which is that not even what you call it anymore,
Oh
but
yeah. Disorganized attachment. That is what I'm saying. It's good to just like be able to. They're just two human beings, and they get hurt when they're disconnected. The easiest way for me to understand disorganized, like I always think of an ex-girlfriend of mine, probably disorganized attachment. I probably have disorganized attachment. What am I talking about? That is like I want to be close to you, but when you're close to me, it's not right. Poor devils that have been hurt enough, they've been hurt enough deeply on the you're not there for me, and when I'm close to you, it's not safe. Right. So the thing I always remember is, his ex-partner of mine like hugged me, but like, no, you don't hug me right. You rest into me. I don't get to rest into you. So like, you want to hug, but the hug's not right. Right. So you're not there for me, but when you are there for me, it's just It's not safe. It's not right. Right. So unfortunately for poor devils that have been hurt a lot. So this is the interesting thing. Remember, there's actually 4 attachment styles, right? Anxious, avoidant, disorganized, and secure. And disorganized and secure are actually very similar, right? In that secure is I got hurt a teeny weeny amount of being abandoned and a teeny weeny amount of being rejected. So that, ah, I'm okay. You're working late. No worries. Right? I trip you up and you go, that was bad. And you're like, I won't take it personally. You're right. I shouldn't have tripped you. Should we have a latte? Right? Like this beautiful, sweet, secure people, right? But disorganized, they actually got hurt a lot on the abandonment and a lot on being rejected. And so they're fucking living inside like a torture chamber. Why are you never close to me? But like, okay, that was too much. I need space from you. And then, of course, their partner is going to be living in a torture chamber, right? With them, but they're probably not doing so well themselves if they ended up with a disorganized. Let's say like being wounded in love, 10 being the most wounded in love, 0 being the least wounded in love, like me, 0, Teale, 10, right? If you want to be with a 6 and you're an 8, you got to make yourself a 6. 6s are going to be attracted to other 6s. Just think about it. If you end up in your life, you're like, my partner's a fucking lunatic. They're fucking never there for me. Chances are you're a fucking lunatic yourself. You just can't see it, right? Right? If your partner's a fucking lunatic, you're a fucking lunatic. I was with a lot of lunatics. You know what that means? I was a fucking lunatic. But whether it's just aging, I became less of a lunatic, and I found someone that's less of a lunatic in love. And so now we're both just like 5s with trips into 10 for a couple of hours. And then, we go back to 5.
Figs.
Yeah.
First of all, I'd like to see that Valentine's Day card. Like, thank God I found someone to be less of a lunatic with me. I've read recently one of Sue Johnson's, or I've read pieces of her book, and I really liked this point she made about like, part of our ideal developmental task in attachment is to internalize that caring presence of like a reliable other. She probably talks to this, and I don't remember, or I didn't read it, but it kind of seems to me that a piece of the experiential work that we do in EFT over the course of time, it actually helps people internalize. I'm curious because there is like that process of change that you talk about, which is like, we're not trying to change people, but in doing the work that we do, it does change the quality of attachment. And it kind of seems like people get into this place where they can internalize this felt sense of safety with their partner in a deeper way. And it's pretty transformational. I've gotten to do some of that with my partner. Like I hadn't ever had something as secure as we have. And it has changed me in terms of how I feel across relationships.
Yeah. The idea is like, remember the infinity loop, right? I have this vulnerable one inside me, this one that's hurting, not feeling loved. And remember, like it gets combined with shame. I'm too much or I'm not enough. And so on some level, I'm not okay with that part of me, which means I'm not able to fully love that part of me. And then I have a reactive side that I'm either blind to, accept it in a kind of a egotistical way, or dislike that reactive part of me. And then, of course, my partner is a vulnerable one and a reactive one. In an ideal world, both people will come to accept and love all 4 of those parts of the system, right? Come to accept and love all of them. And it's weird, right? To accept the reactive one, because I know the reactive one's only there because you're hurting inside. And of course, to love the one that's feeling, let's say, abandoned and that I'm too much, or to love the one that's feeling rejected and not enough. And then, of course, to love those parts in each other. Right. So in the process of doing all of that, that is, like you're saying, you end up being able to be the good enough other, good enough mother to yourself and to your partner. right? And in both directions, right? That, like, as we go through the process, you learn how to be a good enough other to yourself and to someone else, right? Because ultimately, when we're doing enactments, right, you're doing all this reactivity. The only reason you're doing the reactivity because you're hurting inside. And you're only doing reactivity because you're hurting inside and you haven't let yourself really feel how much it hurts. And you haven't let yourself grieve and love the one that's hurting. And so, in the process of doing an enactment, we're actually helping them feel their own unlovedness, their own pain, their own grief, and then over time helping them love that part of themselves. And then obviously giving their partner in stage two, not to get complicated, a chance to love that part of them that is actually really hurting. And yeah, and obviously as you do it for each other, it makes it easier to do it for yourself. As you do it for yourself, it makes it easier to do it for the other person. Like you're reparenting the missing things that you didn't get inside yourself and each other, right? Through the whole process, which is amazing. Right. Oh yeah, sure.
How do you talk to clients directly about the ways in which partners collude in like not letting each other feel the vulnerable feelings, right? Like I don't want to feel that in my own body. It's hard for me to be with my own hurt, and every time I try to feel my hurt, it's really hard for you. Like how do you phrase that or talk about that?
Well, I mean, it's not that different when we just talked. You just put together the system. Let's say in this, what you're describing is just a system where, look, I'm actually hurting inside. I'm committed to not feeling that hurt. The things I do that are committed to not feeling that hurt, that leaves you not feeling connected. You're also committed to not feeling the hurt. That means if you see any hurt feelings of mine, I'm not living up to my contract with you to keep you away from your hurt feelings and vice versa. So we have an invisible contract that we signed with each other that we're actually going to make sure we both stay away from our hurt feelings. So you'd have to just see it happen and then you reflect it to them. You'd have to see the system right now as you guys are colluding with each other. And by the way, it's the same with people that you're an asshole. Well, you're a bitch. Well, you're a bigger asshole. Well, you were a bigger bitch on Tuesday. Well, your dad even thinks you're an asshole. Well, that's funny because your mom is right here beside me saying you're a bitch too, right? Those people are also colluding. That is preferable to them. What's so weird is that is preferable to them to be two vulnerable people. They love some part of them. This is brilliant that you'll fight with me like this, because as long as you'll fight me like this, I don't have to be someone that's alone in the world, or I don't have to be someone who's a completely worthless piece of shit in the world. I'd rather, even though they don't realize this consciously, and you help them realize it consciously, we would rather fight like this than actually be who we really are. So this is we're actually succeeding. We're actually fulfilling our contract with each other, even if it's a secondary contract. Like they probably really meant it on day one that we'll get married and we'll just be happy. But now they're fighting actually is how they stay away from the stuff that is, and they're colluding with each other to stay away from their hurt feelings. But you'd have to see it and reflect it to them and get their buy-in.
Figs, kind of on that topic, with some couples, I find that I do more. To me, it feels like I have to do more like convincing. They like give me something and I'm like, oh, let's be experiential. And then I go there and they're like, no, I just think I've always been that way. Or like, it's just, that's what anybody would do. And I just have been wondering, I don't think it's inherently wrong to be in the kind of like, no, this is what we're doing here. I think there's more and there's attachment. I don't think that's inherently wrong. What I do kind of wonder, do I fall back on that explaining thing too much?
Well, I do, right? I fall back on the explaining thing too much, right? But look, and I do it with you guys. I try to make sure we understand the scaffolding and the theory and what it is we're trying to do. And then you have to be skillful about the doing. And some of it is reflecting the cycle and showing it to them. And then some of it is doing really skillful enactments. And some of it is, right, infinity loop. Here's the couple, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ellen's going to do her running around the whiteboard with her mouse again. Last week I didn't comment on it, but she's just like a drunken sailor just fucking flying around the whiteboard. That's okay. Wait, Sherwood's going, right? So remember, like, yeah, okay, I gave you guys the right. Nice. Okay. So remember, like, everything is happening inside this cycle, right? We wanted to see everything, right? We want partner A to be able to see, oh my God, when I do 2, I'm really feeling 1. And we want B to go, oh my God, when I do 4, I really do 3. Oh Jesus, when I do 4, it lands on my partner in their poor, vulnerable 1. And we want A to be able to see, God, when I do 2, it lands on my partner's sweet little vulnerable 3. Well, you need to show them the relationship with all of these, right? And a very simple way to do it, you see there's a C here. So you're working with the couple, like to see 1, 2, 3, and 4 everywhere all at once. And sometimes you're working with A just to get 1 and 2 together. And so you can do an enactment with 1 and 2. But here's what I'm primarily doing when I'm working with A. I'm trying to get A to realize this. And not just realize it, fucking feel it deeply. And this is the experiential part that, before I learned this, I was like 10 years, I don't know, 15 fucking years studying Gestalt and experiential psychotherapy. And, like before I learned all this EFT stuff, I did all the experiential stuff, right? Because I was a lunatic and I needed to like have a life with less suffering. So I just did this as a religion, right? So we want to help them make a C, right? And here's how you make a C, right? They're at 1. They don't even realize they're 1, right? They're in their reactivity. They're in their negative story about someone else, right? And you got to get them to 2. And 2 is that they're aware they're doing it, right? I'm totally obsessed with the other person's a bad person. I'm being angry right now, right? And you do that through validating them. Yeah, like it makes sense that they're like you'd be angry with them. Right. Yeah, you are angry. I'm angry, right? But then you're going to ask them this really important question, right? Because you got to get them from 2 to 3. So look, you're really clear on why the other person is an asshole and why you're angry with them and why you're actually telling them they're an asshole, right? Negative view, the other person, reactive emotion, and a behavior, right? Negative view of the other person's an asshole, reactive emotion, I'm angry with them, behavior, I'm actually critical of them and telling them. But the only reason anyone is doing that is because deep down inside, there's something they're not getting and it hurts. And so you have to use all of your skills to be a friend to their number 1 and help them be aware they're doing number 1, get them to 2, and then may use even deeper, slightly different skills to actually make them feel deeply, I just don't feel like I matter to them. I feel so sad and alone. And then you go, ooh, 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 this is so exciting. Because then you put together an enactment. You help them now go, hey, when I was telling you you're an asshole and I was seeing you negative and I was angry at you, I was actually feeling abandoned and sad inside. And so you get them to talk from 4. And then if you keep making both of them do C's, they just understand the whole thing. So just over and over again, every session, sometimes we're explaining the whole 1, 2, 3, 4, and I know I emphasize that a lot with you guys, but then a lot of the time I'm just going, fuck this. I'm going in on A. I'm going in on A, and I'm going to make A do a C. You're being a little reactive. I'm being reactive. I wonder where it's coming from. I just feel sad, and I'm not loved. Well, could we tell him you're sad and not loved? We're done. Okay.